world's changing. And you are right in the center of it.
I don't know what's ahead, but all bets are off.
We go to Frankie Edgar over the weekend. He gets his bantamweight debut victory over Pedro Munhoz. Now, it was a close fight. I think I scored it 3-2 for Munhoz, but a 3-2 score, I think, for Edgar is very justifiable. I have no issue with it. My question for you, Brian Campbell, lead us off here, good sir, if you will, excuse me. How surprising was his win at 135 pounds?
Very surprising, and I have to be honest, I have been ready to write off the great Frankie Edgar multiple times along the way, Luke. I've been a little bit more critical of some of the opportunities he got because of his big name. Yet when you go out there and put off performances like this and cut down in weight late in your career and make it not look like what it typically looks like, an absolute desperation move, look this great physically, have 5-round stamina against an absolute killer in Pedro Munhoz, all you can do is clap your hands. This was a vintage victory for Frankie Edgar, and I think one of those special ones that'll stand out on the back half of his already great resume. Yeah, I scored it 3-2 Munhoz. It could have gone either way. It was Frankie's constant volume and coming back after getting hurt and answering with big shots against Munhoz, just stalking him and trying to land that big one. Yet, here's the deal, and we knew this coming in. Frankie Edgar won this fight, is more than likely going to be put into slot for a title shot. Not next. That seems to be Aljo based on Dana White's comments late Saturday, which is great news for all of us. But Frankie's probably going to end up getting a shot. And Luke, people don't do what he's doing right now. Go this deep into their 30s and be relevant in this many divisions as an instant title contender. He already won a title at lightweight way over his head in fighting, as the smaller, quicker guy. He went to the title level 3 times at featherweight and came oh so close. But to come back and do this against a legit guy who was on the verge of cracking that title shell himself, that says a lot exactly about who he is, the shape he gets into, the commitment, and really the evolution, Luke. He's starting to get into, this almost Captain America Randy Couture part of his career where it's like, I don't want to put limits on what he can do. That was a strong-ass performance, and he had to do it over 5 hard rounds. This probably won't get the love it deserves at the end of the year for things like Fight of the Year discussion, but this was an excellent fight, and a lot of that was Frankie Edgar just proving us wrong by being great.
Okay, so here's the initial question I asked was, how surprising was it that he won at bantamweight? And I think everyone was wrong before the fight, and now they're doubling down on their mistake. And here's how I know I feel very confident in saying this. My show, the Luke Thomas Show on SiriusXM, is ending, but on Friday, and the podcast for this version is available for free and worldwide. By all means, do not take my word for it. Go double-check what I am saying. I spent 30 minutes on Friday saying the odds for this fight, if you had seen them previously, they had Frankie as like a plus 230 underdog. In other words, a pretty substantial underdog. I did not understand that at all. I thought everybody was reading this room wrong. Here's what was happening before the fight. People were saying, well, I don't like Frankie's long-term prospects at 135 all that much, and then using that to assign value to his opportunity against Munhoz and saying he didn't have much of one. They're right that I don't think he has much of a chance at getting a title at 135 or beating the very, very elite. But they were so wrong about his matchup against Munhoz. That was a favorable matchup for Frankie against Munhoz. I mean, yes, did Frankie Edgar look really bad against the Korean Zombie? Yes, he did. But number one, he was already going down to 135, inadvisably changed course on short notice on weight classes and opponent, flew to South Korea and got housed. Now, how good is the Korean Zombie? We haven't seen him against Max Holloway or against Volkanovski, but it appears to me that outside of those two, he probably has a case as the best 145, or certainly with his boxing at this point. He is a force to be reckoned with. So to me, while that was a very, very bad showing for Frankie, it was not emblematic of who he was. And while Max Holloway had beaten Frankie unanimously and by virtually every round, if you go and look at the fights the rounds themselves, they were actually pretty close. People were burying this guy way too early. Pedro Munhoz does not necessarily do all that well with a guy like Frankie, who can show all that movement and fakes and feints and certainly the ability to just sort of stay on his horse from a motion standpoint. Now, of course, Munhoz did really well. I thought he took 3 rounds to 2. The leg kicking seemed to me to be a big difference, but not for the judges in attendance, and that's okay. Here's my point, though. Everyone is doubling down, being like, oh, my God, he's back, blah, blah, blah. No, No, he never left. Now, don't use this victory in the opposite way you were viewing it before. This victory is nice. It proves he belongs in the top 10. That should not be surprising to you. He was a title holder at 155. He was a consummate title contender at 145. At 135, he is going to be probably somewhere in that top 5 until his chin can no longer take it, which we're not there yet. But this idea that he's going to go in there and beat Peter Yan or, the very, very best of that division, maybe he will. I don't like his chances long-term to win a title. I could see a scenario where he might even become the number 1 contender. But I don't think 135 is the refuge that 145 wasn't. And so I think what's happening here is people totally discounted him very wrongly to begin with. Then he shocks them in this because they had the wrong impression. And now they want to double down and saying, oh, no, this guy is... He's going to go places. Don't misunderstand me. The first fighter to win Fight of the Night across 3 weight classes, Frankie Edgar, is special. He is very, very special. But if you got it wrong to begin with, don't double down on the mistake and then overstate his chances at 135. Take it fight by fight. At 38 years old, the only other person in that division his age is Rafael Sunsao, and you can see there's a changing of the guard, BC.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to sit here and act like I believe even off this great win that he's deserving of a title shot. You just know how UFC operates. The last 2 bantamweight title shots, despite this division being overflowing with great young talent, has been Dominic Cruz coming off of a loss in a multi-year layoff and Jose Aldo coming off of 2 losses. So at the very least, Frankie Edgar beat a real badass top 5 guy and looked really good doing so. So that justifies it a little more. Do I believe he can win a title and be the first 3 division or 2? I'm sorry, he would be a 2 division champion. Yeah, no, I got to pump the brakes on there. This division is all killer. But at the very least, Luke, when I go to predict this fight and I'm looking like, sorry, Frankie, I love you, but you're probably gonna get stopped here. For him to be able to go through that and take away the fear we had from the Ortega knockout loss, from the Korean Zombie one you mentioned, and again, to go down in weight at this age and be forced to go 5 rounds at the championship level, look at that. That's a pretty special performance there.
No, there's no. Again, I don't want to overstate. I don't want to understate. You got to get the Goldilocks on this one just right. He is very, very credible as a threat at 135 pounds. I think my only reservation is when people really get the impression of him wrong heading into it. I mean, Pedro Munhoz hits hard, but he's sort of a single shot kind of guy. You saw that there a little bit. And Frankie did a really good job with those takedowns, jumping to the other side to not get guillotined. He really did a great job there as well. I was like, dude, this one's, I'm not saying it's tailor-made for him, but the way I think I said it on Friday was there's plenty of good reason to think Frankie Edgar can win this. This is not some like lamb to the slaughter kind of operation. It's just Pedro Munhoz got outclassed by Aljamain Sterling, and I don't think Pedro Munhoz can beat Cody Garbrandt, or we'll see, maybe he can beat Cody Garbrandt. Well, he did, actually. Let me back up a step there. But he beat a bad version of Cody Garbrandt. Could he beat this version? I guess we will see. Corey Sandhagen, Marlon Moraes, I don't know. It's a tough road to hoe for him at 135 pounds. So sensational win. This guy is the Iron Man at 38. By the way, you pointed out, I retweeted you on Friday. He looked shredded on the scales at 135. Dude, he's there to be a competitor. Just pump the brakes on the title future opportunities outside of what his name value is. There's still, as Dana White said, a ton of work to do. So phenomenal first start, but you should not be surprised. Well, don't bury the guy just yet.
Is there really a ton of work to do? I mean, this pretty much could have given him a title shot here. And again, Dana got it right by putting Aljo in there.
Really? Over Sterling? Really?
No, I'm not telling you he's getting the next one. Aljo's getting it, and that's the right move by Dana. But if you don't think they might call Frankie next for the winner of that, I don't know if I'd favor him. Like you're saying, I wouldn't love his chances against either of those guys. Yet at the same time, for him to do this against Munhoz, who is no slouch, I don't think you can. I mean, don't overcorrect too far, Luke. All right.
I'm not. I just saw people being like, yeah, he's got no chance. Then he goes in there and does what I thought was pretty doable for him. And now they're like, oh my God, here comes Frankie. He's the next coming of 135-pound Christ. He's not that. There's very, very tough guys at the top of that division. And, sorry, you could make a very credible case that Munhoz should have won that fight. So, again, to me, it's fine.
I'm just saying he's not going to have to go through all those guys.
Oh, you're saying because of his name. He's probably only going to have
to go through one more.
You're saying because of his name.
And that one will be a champion.
Yeah, okay. That's probably true. So let's say he beats I don't know, the winner of Sandhagen and Moraes, probably he will get. But at that point, if you beat the winner of Sandhagen and Moraes, you probably do deserve a title shot. That would be a win over a top 5 guy in Pedro Munhoz and a win over the number 1 and I'm looking at it here, 4 guy. At that point, you have Garbrandt going down a weight class. Sterling would give you the next one over there against Jan. You'd be that guy. I would be totally okay with that. So that's not a problem for me. One more question about this, BC, a little bit of a curveball for you. Can Frankie Edgar make flyweight?
Oh, stop that. Stop that crap. Come on.
Can he make flyweight?
Maybe on the can TJ Dillashaw make flyweight and then completely look like a shell of himself? I don't know if he can do it on a one-off night to make you happy, Luke, but I wanted to counter your special trick question by saying, should he have been in this division all along? Who would he be right now if he was bantamweight Frankie Edgar from the beginning? Would he have had, a Dominic Cruz-like control of the division for a while before the injury?
You ready for this? You ready for this?
It's very interesting because it was weird to see him as the taller, longer fighter in sort of the naturally bigger guy. That's never happened.
So, what's so funny about this? 5 years ago, before the Luke Thomas show even existed, I was on Sirius XM, and live on the air, we got a call from Mark Henry. We did not call him. We did not solicit him. He was just listening and then called in from his car. And he told us at the time that he wanted Frankie to go to 135 then. Then he wanted him to go. This was a choice he could have made a long, long time ago. And I got to tell you, BC, if he was fighting against the Dillashaws back then or even the Dominic Cruzes back then, I don't know if he would have won, but probably, right? He'd probably be a 2-weight world champion versus a guy who was a decorated champion and then obviously has been a top perennial contender the rest of his time. It's not like he's been some slouch, but that extra hurdle that Jose Aldo denied him, I don't know that those other guys would have.
Very fair, and I don't want to end the Frankie Love Fest, even though Jay is so deep in my ear. He won the first title like 8 years ago. MMA was a lot different then. Credit to the constant evolution, and even at this age, to be able to have that speed to be able to keep up like this. Look, you got to love the guy. Again, he's got that Captain America-like where you just got to love him.
Although a bit of an anti-vaxxer, but a different story for a different time. All right, we go on to point number 2.
I'm sorry. You can take your politics, lift up that half of your beard, and stick them right under there. Okay,
I'm just teasing. It's a sensational win. He should be very proud of himself. I mean that with true sincerity. And I'm glad that people have again, some people are making the mistake of overstating things, but at least now I would say we have a much more accurate read on what he'll do at 135 than we did on Friday. I think that's a pretty fair statement to make.
Are you in?
This is our time. The world's changed, and you are right in the center of it.
I don't know what's ahead, but all bets are off.